So, do we live in a hypersphere? More importantly, is the zodiac a hypersphere? I actually think it might be. Namaste, you guys. This is Dr. Danny, physician astrologer. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about hyperspheres today. I'm going to talk to you about the full moon in Cancer, or the full moon in Capricorn, which occurs on the 1st of August. But before I talk about hyperspheres, the reason I wanted to kind of draw y'all into this video is I need to preface it with the full moon energy. So if you guys will just give me like 2 to 5 minutes to talk about the general full moon energy, I'm going to show you where you can look up some information on hyperspheres and why I think this full moon is a unique opportunity and energetic portal for those of us that kind of feel in the in-between phase right now of things, if you know what I mean. So let me just quickly share my screen with you guys. Here it is. So for this full moon that's occurring on the 1st of August, the sun is in Cancer. So we do actual sky astrology here. So if you think the sun's in Leo, that's because when you use the tropical system, they don't actually use the sky, which is fine. But for me, it just makes it more complex. And so I enjoy actually looking at the sky and going, well, what does that energy mean for me? So I hope you guys do too. This is the western sky right around sunset, where you'll see the sun in Cancer. If we go over to this side of the sky and we make it nighttime, we'll see the moon here in Capricorn. So just to orient you to the actual universe and our actual solar system and what's actually going on, I just wanted to show you those two things. You can find that at stellarium-web.org. So let's look at a chart real quick because I want you guys to see this energy. For those of you that aren't familiar with birth charts, this is your standard zodiac wheel, except that you'll notice that the constellations are all different sizes, and that actually reflects what's actually going on in our sky. Some people debate some of these, where some of these lines are actually drawn, but I want you to think of it as waves of frequencies. So in the middle of this constellation here, the frequencies of Leo are low, the frequencies of Virgo are low. And as we get into the middle of the constellation, the energetic frequencies of Leo are high. And in essence, all these energies are available to us, but what passes through these areas gets a flavor of that planet. Okay, so we're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss what a full moon means, and a full moon specifically when the moon is in Capricorn and the sun is in Cancer. Now, the sun just recently moved into Cancer, I want to say around the 17th of July, so just a little over 2 weeks ago. It doesn't stay there long because there's only about 18 or 20 degrees of arc in the constellation of Cancer. It's very small and it's very dim, and it's very hard to see, actually, unless you have a very, very clear night. So the sun in Cancer, the sun is the fullest outward expression of your spiritual self. The sun rules Leo in the 5th house. So to have that expressive energy in the sign of Cancer, Cancer is that nurturing, home base, protection energy. It is ruled by the moon as well. So to have the expression of the highest spiritual self in that loving, nurturing energy, it's a loving energy. You probably express yourself in a more loving way than you normally do in Cancer. You probably see other people as more loving with the sun in Cancer. So that's the sun energy. The moon, which is the inner self, the inner emotional self, the expressive, not the expressive, but like the emotional expression of yourself. It also is the energy that you magnetize to yourself when you're feeling something. So let's say you're angry or triggered, you have a moon in Capricorn, then you're going to express Capricorn energy because of how you're feeling, okay? And so a moon in Capricorn is going to, when triggered, for example, want to work. So let's say you get upset, then you're just going to clean your house, or you're going to build something, or you're going to focus on something that works towards the higher good. Now that's a nice moon energy to have. It's also very helpful when you're happy. You also magnetize matter to yourself. You magnetize the energy of abundance and manifestation with that moon energy in Capricorn. So to have a full moon. Now, a full moon is the moon is actually going to reflect the rays of the sun from the energy of Cancer during a time when the sun would not be up. So that's what a full moon is going to do for us. So that loving, nurturing energy of the sunlight going through Cancer is going to be reflected off of the moon. And that's what we do too with our moon energy. We reflect outward. So now you have this striving, working, manifesting energy coming down through our moon energy, through our emotional body, but we're going to reflect love and compassion. Now, even more interestingly, this axis is also what we call the gateway of souls and the gateway of men. So Cancer energy, it's not just all that loving, nurturing, protective energy, it's also the gateway of our soul. Think of your childhood as this Leo energy, where you're just the purest expression of spirit. You haven't been programmed yet. You don't really think of others. You're just there to enjoy the beauties of life around you, and you trust and have faith that you're going to be taken care of. Then you move into, and also about this, young expressive energy, you also still have access to your higher self, your soul, your energetic abilities. All of this is available to you as a young child. And then what happens to you probably between the ages of 4 and 6, you suddenly become aware of others. There's now all of a sudden this self and others, and then the memory of our higher self, of our collective consciousness, begins to fade from us. We forget our abilities. We stop talking to our, imaginary friends and things like this. And it's all about others. And so the achievement of Cancer energy is to have compassionate awareness of the self in others. So you come down to this world, all of a sudden your soul awakens in this body, and splat, you have no memories. And this is that Cancer axis. Okay, now the Capricorn axis is the axis of men, the gateway of men. And what happens in that space is that in that point in your life, you're working, you're striving, you're achieving. But are you working for the highest goal? Are you working for the highest truth? Have you learned all the lessons of Saturn? And if you've done this, then you've got access. You've got a gateway into the more spiritual realms, the ease of manifestation, abundance, things being just sort of magnetized to you. Or you're in a space where you're just working to work. That's when the man's soul kind of dies, and he basically ends his life and repeats this loop over again. So that Capricorn energy is a huge transition, and so is Cancer for our souls, for our soul development. So when I see portals in a circle like this, I'm almost reminded of a toroidal shape. I'm going to show you some pictures in a minute. How we have a toroidal field around electromagnetic energy, like our heart has one, the sun has one, the earth has one. And when I see the zodiac wheel, and I see this axis, and I see the sun moon there, this feels like a portal for the self, that we're in between worlds of the self right now. Who are we? Who do we want to become? And the other astrology explains all that, but I'm going to go into that after I talk about the hypersphere, because I'm getting into the hypersphere right now. So essentially you've got this toroidal shaped field. And so I'm going to move to this picture because I think that will give you guys an idea of what a toroidal field is. And since we live in a holographic fractal universe, everything inside of this toroid has their own toroidal field. So I hope that makes sense. But how does this energetic shape exist in nature? It's not something we necessarily see. We kind of have to sense it with things, not with our own eyes or with our own ability to judge depth perception and feeling. So this 3D world that we live in, we're all very familiar with it. A hypersphere is more of a 4th-dimensional object. In mathematics, you can go up to infinite dimensions in space, because all you have to do is calculate and integrate and take the square root and blah blah blah, all that math stuff. But in real physical reality, there's only 3 spatial dimensions and 1 dimension of time that we can perceive. So we've got front, back, side to side, up and down. And within that space, there is a 4th spatial dimension. We just can't sense it. And I feel like it expands within the space, like it creates inside the space, if that makes sense to you guys. So This is a fourth dimensional field that is creating three-dimensional reality inside of it. This is probably a good computer representation of what that might look like. Before I get into the next picture and get into why I think the zodiac is part of a hypersphere, I want you guys to know about this video right here. This will give you guys maybe a better awareness or an understanding of what fourth dimension is and what a hypersphere actually is. And there isn't a lot of math, so it's really good. I'm gonna link to it in the comments and in the description. So I want y'all to definitely check that out. So I'm gonna go back to this, because what happens when you have a four-dimensional object move through a three-dimensional space, you see a pinpoint and then it expands into that space and then it disappears as it moves out of our three-dimensional space. So what does that kind of remind you of? That reminds you of spirit, right? That reminds you of apparitions. That reminds you of visions, of dreams, doesn't it? Where it's all of a sudden the reality that we see with our eyes isn't there anymore. Something moves in and out of it. And that's what a fourth dimensional object would look like coming in and out of our space. So think of yourself as maybe a fourth dimensional creature, because we're moving into the fourth dimension, the age of Aquarius, the new earth, all of that stuff. This is all very relevant to this information. When you take that computer generated model and you take a 3D slice of a fourth dimensional object, you get these fields of energy. Isn't that what we are? As we express ourselves in this three-dimensional space as four-dimensional creatures, we can change what we look like. We can change what we see. It really is that simple. There's a whole lot of reality creation techniques where you can enter a meditation, and when you come out, you have changed your timeline. You have changed your reality. And that's what this is right here, guys. So this Capricorn Cancer axis, if you tie in the zodiac, and I tried to do 4 dimensions here, but basically at any angle that you look at a fourth dimensional object from 3D space, you're going to see spiral fields of energy. Now, if you were to turn this human around to the side, you would still see that spiraling going inward or outward. So it's almost like a three-dimensional hologram as opposed to a two-dimensional hologram. So I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to show you one more thing in Prometheus that is amazingly cool, that if you guys have this software, you can do it too. What we're going to do is take this full moon, this Capricorn full moon, and we're going to put it into a star globe. We're going to make it a three-dimensional object with the aspects so you guys can see what I'm trying to impart to you in terms of what the rabbit hole I went down recently. This is our zodiac. Look at these lines. These are aspect lines like we look at in a birth chart, and you can see it here for reference. But essentially, you can take this globe and move it all the way around and kind of see how we are in this hypersphere. To just kind of take yourself up to the fourth dimension and look at what we're dealing with here and how we can play with these energies. So I did a screenshot of the full moon for you that I'm going to show you with that configuration. You can see the real wheel down here, but here it is. Here's the sun. Here's the moon. There's Pluto squaring the nodes. There's a Saturn, Mercury opposition. Jupiter is doing a T-square on this. So we're going to get into all of that energy here right now. Let's go back to our regular wheel so we can keep looking at that. If I haven't blown your mind too much, hopefully that was easy for you guys to take in. And maybe you can go down your own rabbit hole as well. I just think it's super, super interesting. And I think there are certain alignments within our astrology that give us a potential to maybe see fourth dimensional energy or to understand it or understand it a little bit better. And this is one of them right here. So a couple of the things that are quickly going on during the full moon that affect the full moon that we're going to talk about, and then we will wrap it up. Okay. So in addition to this beautiful portal energy we have right here, the in between of the inner and the outer self, and the striving and the nurturing, we've got Jupiter in Aries, T squaring the sun and the moon. Now, obviously, this is going to be a quick T square, whereas, because the moon is quick energy. But Jupiter, let's consider Jupiter for a minute. Jupiter has been in Aries for a little while now. And at first, when Jupiter went into Aries, I felt like it might have been, kind of a fire type of energy where there's a huge explosion of self expansion. But because Jupiter moves so slowly, it's more of a slow burn, a slow unfoldment of faith in the self and a new expression of faith. And that just makes total sense to me, because squaring this moon, this is about faith of the self. This is about expression of the spirit, about the soul, about the man, about the inner self, the outer self, and the infinite universe that's inside all of us. Pluto also T squares the nodes, which is moon energy. It's where the eclipses come from. So whenever we have a full moon or a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse, one or both of those guys are the sun or the moon are connected to the nodes. And Pluto's been T squaring the nodes for a long time, for a better part of this year, and will continue to do so. And so I think at this point, as a collective, we've got our North Node pointing towards Pisces, which is universal love, connected consciousness, oneness, surrendering to spirit, whereas the South Node has been in Virgo, which is remembering the karma, remembering the source that we come from, the infinite number of galaxies that are out there, turning energy into matter. And going through this process. So, and Pluto's about empowerment, and Pluto is also about purification. So as a collective, we're going through this purification process. First of our spirit and what we believe in and our faith in Sagittarius. And very soon it'll be through Capricorn, through our highest achievements, through our structures, through our sense of time. That's all going to go through a purification, but also an empowerment at the end of it all. While our North Node is also connected to our Chiron, our collective Chiron, which is a disconnection from spirit. So it's being in the in-between and having faith, right? So Neptune also sextiles this, which sextiles Pluto. So there's an element there's an element of surrender to this. Let the truth come in. Just let it be what it is. You don't have to judge it. You don't have to worry about it. Let the truth come in, let it be what it is, and let it go. Then there's also Uranus trining on Pluto from the very, very 0 degrees of Taurus. And Uranus is, been all about the metamorphosis of the self as it's been going through Aries. And now it's the grounding of that metamorphosis in Taurus. Uranus won't spend long there, maybe a couple of months, and then go back into Aries retrograde, and then we'll continue the journey through Taurus in earnest, I think, May of next year. So Uranus might stir up some financial stuff for the collective. Should be pretty interesting. There's always an element of surprise. Uranus is about metamorphosis. It's about mutation. So by surrendering to the process through the Neptune energies, you might get something that's a good surprise. You might have that you never thought was possible. That's Uranus. Uranus can do that. And our North Node, like I said, is conjunct the Chiron, which is healing, and that's our destiny, to heal as a collective and to surrender to that universal consciousness. And then Venus, oh, my sweetheart Venus, my love, my avocation. I love studying Venus in astrology. If you guys see my other stuff, you should check out the Venus in retrograde video that I just did. It's from July 22nd to September 4th. And it covers the entire Venus retrograde period. It's pretty intense up until the star point where they're 2 light minutes apart. Venus is closer to the Earth than it is to the Sun. That's around August 13th. So you definitely want to check that video out. I'll leave a link below. But we'll talk about her real quick and then we'll wrap it up, guys. So Venus, let me just draw this because this is pretty cool. I can find my pen. There it is. So What do we have? Okay, here we go. So Venus is up here in Leo, dancing with Mars and Mercury and Regulus. And the sun is about to enter this area. But Venus is a child of the sun right now, moving retrograde. She's essentially the daughter of the sun god Ra, returning to the realm of kings. So she's moving very quickly at this point. The sun is also moving towards her, and they will make a perfected conjunction on August 13th. Venus is also a goddess, you guys. And when she's in her element, when she's in service to the sun, like she is right now, um, she's powerful. She's creative. She's magnetic energy. And she's energy that doesn't need to strive, that doesn't need to fix herself, that doesn't need to heal, that doesn't need to change herself. She's perfect exactly the way she is. And so she simply needs to be the goddess that she is. And currently, she forms a grand trine with our galactic center, our collective north node in Chiron, and conjunct the star Regulus, the kingly star of the realm of kings. This also forms a kite with the south node, which means you can just sail into this destiny. There's no striving. Do you see this? Sextile, sextile, trine, trine. There's the grand trine. So I love that. I think that's beautiful energy. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do we live in a hypersphere? I think it's certainly possible. I'm going to work on this a little bit more, develop this energy a little bit more. So I hope you guys stay with me. I will leave all my links in the description and in the comments. And until next time, namaste, my friends.